IDW Sonic Comic Issue 25. The story starts out with the damaged shuttle from the Restoration finally heading to Angel Island. I wonder if Knuckles will get roboticized this issue. Nah, he's one of the earliest Sonic characters. It reminds me of Penders' work to have narration lovingly describe Angel Island for no reason, like the Knuckles Chaotix special, or the story where Mighty first met Charmy. There's a jump scare panel, and Sonic tells Knuckles to stay back, as I seriously wonder why he's being so close to Knuckles and why he's not already fully roboticized. How can I be expected to believe he's not outright immune to it when he hasn't lost his free will at this point? He's just magically resistant to it. Anybody else would have lost their free will way earlier. It's so cringeworthy seeing Sonic looking like this. And why does he say he looks like Metal Sonic? Most importantly, why is he wasting the time talking to Knuckles when he's like this? Sonic says he didn't want to land on the grass just in case, and he runs away. Did we really need to see this scene? Meanwhile, we see the Zeddy behind Starline in their normal colors after all. So it was bad art? Eggman has the knee-jerk reaction to call Starline a traitor for recruiting the Zeddy when he really just wants to solve the problem. I can't help but feel bad for him because that's ungrateful. Since when does Eggman call himself Metal Sonic's daddy? That's actually out of character at this point in the series because literally nothing before the reboot have had him anything like this. It is sweet. I always liked the idea that he thinks of himself as his father, but he never outright say that word. It always makes more sense to me if it was one-sided. Metal Sonic thinks of him as his father, but he doesn't think of him as his son. Zavok takes control of Metal Sonic, who's suddenly now on the spaceship just for the sake of being in the plot when he's sent after him. Starline says this is exactly why I brought the Zeddy here, so they can keep the Robians under control while hopefully Eggman would research a better way to contain the Metal Virus. It turns out that while Starline blew into the conch, he got attacked by the Zeddy anyways. And out of nowhere, Eggman reveals that the conch only works as long as your lungs last, so he didn't blow into it for long enough. I always pictured that all you have to do is blow into it in the first place, considering that's a magic conch. I guess it makes sense that you wouldn't know that exact detail when it used the conch, because Eggman used it right the first time. So the magical conch is really precise about how you have to activate its spell. It is a creative way for things to go wrong, but it would have been easier to understand if the writing kept it simple and just had it be that while you use the conch right, realistically the Zeddy were still so close to him that they could just smack him and take it from him anyways. Especially since they already have experience with putting up with it the first time, so they'd be better prepared to handle its noise and have the motivation to power through it. I thought that's what they were going for, and I was impressed. Starline uses the Warp Topaz to get him and Eggman out of the face ship, and Zavok powers up by putting an emerald in his chest. Orbot is smart enough to call Zavok new boss to try to save himself, but then he and Cubot have a whole conversation about Orbot's plan to claim they're going to serve him freely in order to avoid being taken control of. They say all of this literally right in front of him. Didn't this not work out for them in the Lost World adaptation? I guess we're supposed to assume they're whispering all of this, but they're still so close to him, and Orbot just got his attention a panel ago. And he obviously wouldn't let them talk this much. Somehow, it's not even a situation where Zavok is just waiting to mess with him. No, he's actually gonna believe him. This is not believable the way it was written. Orbot didn't need to be written to explain himself to Cubot in front of him. Is Cubot even gonna need to not be taken control of? I hope so. And if you got rid of that panel, then Zavok being too lazy to control him would make sense. Orbot had a convincing lie. It makes sense that he'd think of him as so weak and harmless that he wouldn't need to take control of him. I guess with this comic, the best I can do is be thankful for when it almost makes perfect sense, because that's the best you can ever hope for. Zavok tells Orbot to take him to the largest known pockets of survivors. While the Deadly Six are evil, I can't help but be thankful at them taking over the spaceship, because it's a change of pace after the arc got extremely stagnant and formulaic. and it gives Eggman and Starline what they deserve. We see Rouge spying on Orbot, and he looks up with his thumb up. And then Rouge gives him a thumbs up all of a sudden. It's interesting to see them working together. I'm glad she's here and didn't just get herself roboticized by Shadow because she was so sad that it happened to him. This is revisiting her character as a spy on the villains. Savick explains that empowered by the Emeralds, the Deadly Six could command thousands of Robians. They need to command millions, not thousands. I don't know why he wants to bring devastation to the world. It makes no sense. He wants to infect every living thing and give Sonic and Eggman the mercy of a slow end by them. Because he's an idiot. Why would he give them mercy? I know he looks like a devil, but I'd like him to have some kind of logical motive. Instead of being a character that I want killed immediately. In the last issue's final panel, it looks like Starline had turned the Zeddy into Zombots themselves to scare Eggman into making a vaccine and guarantee their obedience. So much for that. We cut back to Angel Island, where Sonic is back to mostly looking good. So what was that bullshit from General about him not getting to run off anymore? If Flynn was being a good writer here, he would abandon that dumb idea and had General be wrong, because really, General could have easily just come to the wrong assumption. I don't know where he got that idea. It sure is convenient that after Eggman and Starline warp straight to the Master Emerald, Starline says exposition that reveals to the heroes that Savick took control of the spaceship, or at least that they're outside of Savick's range. He's just saying something to Eggman, when Eggman would already know. Amy wants to attack Eggman, and somehow Sonic tells her not to. Has he learned nothing? At least Amy's mad at him for it. Sonic says that Eggman has had every advantage. He asks why Eggman would come to them without his army or Eggmobile. That's weird, so he hasn't already figured out that Savick betrayed Eggman? Starline said Savick right in front of them. Wouldn't it be an easy conclusion to come to right away because Savick betrayed him before? Why else would they want to get out of Savick's range? Eggman tells the heroes what happened to him. And Knuckles at least is learning from all the times Eggman tricked him, as he asks why he should trust a single word the villain said. SBO says that he just got a call from Rouge, but apparently they have to go all the way to the shuttle for that when they were talking to each other from a distance anywhere they wanted to before. It's always a nice change of pace that Eggman's reluctantly with the heroes. It reminds me of World Unite, where the exact same thing happened. He got forced out of his base and into the heroes' airship, and the Zeddy are involved. At least Rouge is shown to be whispering when repeating exposition to the heroes. Savick distributed the emerald to the rest of the Zeddy and sent them out into the world. Rouge said she was on the spaceship for a few days. I never had the impression that a few days had passed. She makes me mad at her, saying that she almost had a plan to steal the emeralds when the Zeddy arrived. Why didn't she do it as soon as possible? What was stopping her from taking all of the emeralds at midnight the first day she was there? This is just a repeat of her idiocy at the end of SC2's Dark Story, where she could have taken all of the emeralds, and that was her mission to save the world, but she didn't. But here, she had no excuse. Rouge says she's coordinating with Orbot to spy on their deployments and coordinate their counterattack. It's sweet of Eggman to say that he can build good help, meaning he's complimenting Orbot. Out of complete nowhere, Eggman reveals that eventually the Robians will disintegrate. So that's the bullshit explanation for why everyone's gone in Silver's future. That's so confusing and dumb. It would have made sense if instead of saying disintegrate, they said naturally they would fall apart over time because no one's maintaining them. Because the robots and the materials, like no one's changing their oil the whole time. But they don't have oil, do they? They're just covered in the metal virus. Eggman says they'll disintegrate after 200 years. Isn't that even more confusing? Silver says that the future he came to stop is already coming to pass. He calls Eggman a monster as he's somehow hurt and failed. Despite having telekinesis, the shuttle went down to Robians and he couldn't save anyone on Ice Paradise. You'd think the telekinetic would be the most competent member of the team. We see Whisper trying to aim at Eggman from outside the shuttle, and Cream hasn't learned a lesson at all and is going to once again look like the idiot bad influence you shouldn't be listened to, just like she was with General. Tails can make a cure without Eggman's help. To be fair, it'd be understandable of her right away if she said that with Eggman and Tails working together, they get a cure developed faster. Sonic can threaten to infect him, so he has leverage over him. Why does Cream expect to be able to convince Whisper not to kill him just by saying this? She's lucky she didn't shoot him immediately. I guess she humored her by listening to her because she likes her so much. Oh, finally, after she's told to move, she says that the heroes need Eggman's help to figure out a way to fix this, and she'd give anything to get all those people back. Never mind the fact that Tails proved he could make a cure on his own, but whatever. He lost his lab and stuff. Maybe Eggman can make a caffeine pill to keep Sonic awake. That'd be another convincing argument she could have made. Whisper agrees, and Cream thanks her, and says considerately that they'll stay with her so she won't be lonely. Sonic says they don't have a way to make a cure as he's running on a conveyor belt, and finally admits to his friends that he's running on fumes. Starline suggests using the Master Emerald to neutralize the Deadly Six. Tails says they can't move the Master Emerald without risking the whole island. Why do the Sonic comics keep having the characters talk as if Angel Island will be at risk of destruction if it falls? It fell in SA1 and was fine. It fell in SA2 and was fine. Tails is supposed to be a genius. You'd think he'd remember this. The adventure games can't be fully canon inside IDW's past if Angel Island would be destroyed if it fell, or even would get noticeably damaged, because it fell twice already. Anyways, Tails says that it'd be too much of a gamble to lure the Zeddy here. And when Espio suggests Chaos Control, Silver says that Shadow's much better at it than him, even though he created a time portal literally effortlessly in 06 and never struggled with it ever. But I see the logic, because it's Shadow's thing. He says Chaos Control only moves a target over a limited range, so it can't change things. So is Espio just desperate? The range can't be that limited. Shadow warped from Prison Island all the way to the Ark effortlessly. And they have the Master Emerald to make Chaos Control even more powerful. Name one time Silver ever messed up Chaos Control. He may be new to it, but I can't imagine he'd be unable to use it at all. Like this writer is desperately trying to establish while also causing a problem by acknowledging that he can use it in the first place. Sonic can also use Chaos Control. But no, he just doesn't like using it. Amy asks if it'd work for Super Sonic, and Sonic says that being Super Sonic doesn't mean he can just do anything, even though he says so himself that the Chaos Emeralds give him unlimited power. And if it was unlimited, why does it run out after he runs out of rings? Eggman snarks that they've forgotten that the emeralds are scattered to the winds. Amy says that she doesn't see him coming up with any ideas, and Eggman snarks that he was waiting for them to get their bad ideas out of the way first. I can't help but smile at his sarcastic attitude, and the hypocrisy of how his idea is potentially the most dangerous of them all, at least if we just believe Starline. Eggman says that they can just use the Warp Topaz. He thinks that if they pump the power of Super Sonic through it, he'd be able to warp the metal virus away in one fell swoop. Wouldn't he warp the people with it on them along with that? I guess not if they can understand what he means in his thoughts. So, how are the heroes supposed to have faith they're gonna save the day when Silver right here is living proof that they can't? Obviously how the future has to get saved is that Silver will have to do something. And so far, all he's done in IDW is pointless stuff. So shouldn't it be Super Silver doing Eggman's idea? Because Silver has telekinesis, so combine that with Chaos Control, and he'd be more likely to have this plan work. I don't care if Starline thinks his plan is reckless. It's the only chance they have to fix things. And Silver needs to say that they need to try it because his future is what it looked like if they didn't. Starline says that the entire planet could collapse from badly warped space-time if Supersonic failed to do things right, saying that creating and directing his warp portals is supposedly difficult. How? Wouldn't it give his Warp Topaz Glove a better interface than that? I thought the whole reason Eggman suggested the Warp Topaz and dismissed the idea of Chaos Control was that using the Warp Topaz to generate a portal would be a lot easier to do than using Chaos Control. Starline says they have a safe haven here and resources, so they can put in the work and find a safe, responsible way to regain control of the situation. Someone should say to him that if any flying Robians go to Angel Island, they're screwed. And if the Zeddy discover this place, they're screwed. So they don't have that much time to hide here. Eggman does say something like that, saying that Sonic's living on borrowed time, and this place won't be safe much longer. Starline disagrees. Metal Sonic grabs his arm without having to be ordered to. God, I wish the characters were this smart all the time. And takes off his Warp Topaz glove. Eggman says he's fired, and he's thrown into the portal to who knows where. That was kind of an epic moment, actually. Even though I can't help but feel sorry for Starline because he was trying to be safe and responsible, saying that they shouldn't risk destroying the world with a reckless plan. And for all we know, he's right. It's pretty odd of the writer to establish him as a safe, responsible person all the time when he's the guy who brought back Eggman, though. The satisfaction of him being fired all of a sudden is punctuated by Sonic coldly saying that he deserved it. While Tails is relatable as he asks if his friends are okay with this. Both of them are relatable with their reactions. Eggman says 2 of the emeralds are on the spaceship, with 1 powering it while the others with Zavok, and he's sure that Rouge could handle those. Espio says they have to deal with the rest of the Deadly Six to get the emeralds from them. Silver says they still have each other to overwhelm them one at a time. Amy goes on to say that they'll have to hit them all at once. And Knuckles says that one said he can warn the others, because they're networked through the spaceship. So there's a reason they can't go with Silver's plan. Eggman says he can scavenge materials from the shuttle and build a multi-portal generator with a Warp Topaz. And with Rouge and Orbot's counterintelligence, he can send them all to their exact targets. Tails says that it would be better if everyone had a backup just in case. Sonic agrees, saying that he's tired, and Amy agrees to make a call. Ooh, this is a nice surprise. She called the Babylon Rogues, and they're tended to be used for good. She says that they're thieves who spent all day on a blimp, so who else would have avoided the plague and would be perfect for stealing the emeralds? That actually looks like a brilliant plan, but it also looks like a trio of expendable characters from Flynn's cynical perspective. With the formula the arc's been having, it looks like each one of them will end up roboticized one by one, with one issue dedicated to each. But hopefully with how impressively the story's been going so far, the writing will continue to impress me. Yeah, that's what happens when you have a plot twist where the plot actually twists. There's a huge change in the status quo, and now I'm thankful for it. Still, I have to wonder how Amy was able to call the Rogues whenever she wanted. Did Jet give her his cell phone number? Did he do that to flirt with her? Also, when Tails said backup, I expected them to mean backup in case something happens to Sonic. Like, why don't they make sure he's not on Angel Island? So that when he inevitably gets roboticized, he won't run after them on Angel Island. Are they gonna take him off Angel Island? Because there's no reason he can't be running on the conveyor belt. Well, I guess there's nowhere safe other than Angel Island, so he gets swarmed and not be able to always... Well, he can run anywhere, though. Jet says it'll help them if the reward's big enough, and Wade says they have to help them out because if they don't, they'll have nowhere to refuel, won't be able to eat there or steal from anyone. And Jet somehow says they can figure that all out without stooping to Sonic's level. He's a terribly written character in this comic. No one could be that stupid. Not too far off from Archie, where he almost destroyed the world trying to learn more about his ancestors. Storm lives up to his dumb guy voice because Flynn forces him to side with Jet when Jet's being a complete idiot. I thought everybody would tell him off. I would have been proud of the writing some more if it avoided this. Sonic shouldn't need to convince Jet to help when he obviously has no choice but to do so. Sonic manipulates him into helping by saying that he needs his help and the world needs the legendary Windmaster. It's almost like he wanted to help stop the metal virus all along and just put up a token act of resistance until he'd be given an excuse to help that's not as embarrassing to his pride. I hate to say it, but he's been reminding me of how Flynn wrote Scourge the whole time. He's green, a desperate rival to Sonic, and everything. And I'd like to think Fiona would have said the same thing Wave did. At least it was interesting to see Zalmum's character be taken advantage of, where he orders the people of the town to feed him, and one of them says that's all he have. He's never been this unlikable, though. Zora's dialogue is melodramatic as always, and doesn't bother to have a period after the word plea. I guess they think they can order the Zombots to grow food, even though they're stupid now. We also get to see Xena's character get taken advantage of, as she complains that this is all the jewelry the town has to offer and says it was a wasteland. She asks someone why the shopping isn't any better here. And he flatters her with an immediate brilliant response that nothing can suit someone as radiant as her. Why can't the main characters be this smart on the spot? I guess the dark comedy works here because I laughed, at least. She says that's a good answer, but only plans on sparing them for another hour. And it seems like she's using the Robians to carry her throne or something. So the Robians finally feel like actual Robians again when they're being controlled like this. Why can't she spare them for, like, forever? Why is she even bothering to spare them for being Robians at all? Why does she care either way? I guess because they have to be non-Robians to be able to praise her. Even though you think that if the Zombots are able to carry out any order they're told to when they're being controlled, they'd be able to talk and therefore praise her regardless, right? Otherwise, they make no sense. If that is the case, they can't talk, then she would have an incentive to keep them non-Robians. I'm more interested in how Xena's gonna run things than anybody else. Like, she could be the only Zeti that would keep survivors from being roboticized. Of course, most of the time when I feel interested and looking forward to how the writing could be great, I'm disappointed. This issue is by Ian Flynn, and was a change to the stale status quo that was desperately needed, even if the Zeti are one-dimensional characters. As Starline fails to control the Zeti because he can't blow into the conch well enough, apparently. At least that kinda made sense. And the Zeti took control of the spaceship in the very same issue, and even add some variety because they each have their own unique way of doing things. I didn't expect the Zetis taking over the ship to be that fast. So, I can't help but be impressed by the fast pacing. They're cutting out the bullshit instead of having a little arc where the Zeti worked for Eggman after all. So Eggman goes to Angel Island and reluctantly makes a plan with the heroes, which is for the power of Supersonic to warp away the metal virus with Chaos Control, with the Warp Topaz. That's a surprise. It seems to make actual sense, even if it's not the obvious solution from the start. The heroes are on the time limit with Sonic, so they wouldn't have the time to make a nanobot army to cure anyways. I never thought the idea of using a powered-up Warp Topaz was going to be the cure the heroes would want to go with, because it was dismissed as too dangerous. Since when would the heroes prefer to risk destroying the world over not taking the risk of doing that? Like, oh, the world would be better off destroyed than be metal viruses completely. I'm just glad General's dialogue last issue apparently didn't lead to Sonic ending up roboticized this issue. Apparently, if the heroes need Supersonic's power to get rid of the metal virus, he will have plot armor after all. Or he won't, and Super Silver will need to save them. That'd make more sense. It seems like the heroes are just a couple issues away from the end of the story arc. It seems like they're at the 11th hour. So I don't know what bullshit is going to happen later to try to justify lasting 20 more issues. If it does last 20 more issues. I didn't look ahead in the timeline. Because it doesn't look like it should last more than 6 at this point. And I'm only saying 6 because that's how slow the pacing is, that I wouldn't put it past them to have a fight with each Zeti last its own issue. Eggman's made a plan with the heroes, and Supersonic was mentioned. That's like the end of a Sonic game territory.